Hey everyone, Brandon Quinn here, thanks for joining. So over the last few weeks I've been making videos on logic and math puzzles, some of which are from my book Mental Mosaics, and I thought it would be cool to see if AIs like ChatGPT can solve these puzzles, and if so, what kind of methods they take in order to get to that correct solution. So in this video I'm going to be pitting three AIs against each other, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, to see which ones can solve the puzzles and which ones give the best explanations of their solutions. So the way this will work is I'm going to pick three logic puzzles from previous videos. For each AI, I'll ask the question, and then if it gets the question totally correct with a sensible explanation, it'll get a full point. If it gives the right answer but the explanation is kind of off, or the other way around, it gives the wrong answer but the explanation is kind of on the right track, I'll give it half a point. And if it falls flat, I'll just give it nothing. And at the end, we're going to see which AI comes out on top. So before we continue, a quick spoiler warning. I will be going over the answers to all these puzzles, so if you want to give them a try for yourself first, I do have links to all of the original videos in the description. So with that, let's jump in with the first question. So the question reads, on an analog clock, how many times a day do the minute hand and hour hand overlap? Let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Okay, so right off the bat, the answer is correct. It is 22 times. So let's look at the explanation it gives. The hand overlaps approximately once every 65.45 minutes, not exactly every hour. That is correct. In 12 hours, they overlap 11 times, which is also correct. So the crucial part here is that the hands overlap once every 65.45 minutes, not just once every hour. So that part is pivotal. So with that, it's given justification for its answer. So ChatGPT gets a full point on this puzzle. Okay, next up is Gemini. Let's see how well Gemini does with this problem. Okay, so it does give the correct answer, but it gives no explanation whatsoever. So I'm going to follow up with a question so that it explains itself. Okay, so the first part is correct. It's slightly after 1 o'clock, then slightly after 2 o'clock, but really it's slightly more after 2 o'clock. It's the offset times 2 and then times 3, etc. It says this would seem to indicate 12 overlaps in 12 hours or 24 in a day. However, it goes into some other reasoning. Between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, the minute hand catches up to the hour hand right around 12 o'clock. But this is exactly noon or midnight, and the hands align perfectly, not overlapping. So it gives a similar analogy, but the reasoning isn't quite correct here. So it is on to something when it says 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. What it's hinting at is that there is no overlap between 11 o'clock and noon/midnight, right? Because the hour hand is pointing at 11, the minute hand at 0/12. Then the full hour later is when it finally intersects, but that's on 12 o'clock, right? Right at noon or midnight. So there's no intersection there. So when you multiply that by 2 for the full day, that's where the 22 comes in, the 11/22. What it's trying to say here, though, is there's something between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, which is not the case. So for that reason, surprisingly, Google Gemini actually only gets half a point for this one. So next up is Claude. Let's see how well it does on this puzzle. Okay, so unlike the other AIs, this is going through the steps first before describing the solution, which is good. Okay, I can see though the solution itself is incorrect. It says it overlaps 24 times, not the correct answer of 22 times. So right off the bat, this one either gets 0 or 1/2 point. Let's at least look at the explanation and see if there's any plausibility to it. So the first point is correct. So the second point is correct. The third point, let's see. The hour hand moves at 1/12 the speed of the minute hand. That is correct because for every full rotation of the minute hand, the hour hand only goes to the next hour, which is 5 divided by 60, which simplifies to 1 divided by 12. Yep, basically 0.5 is rehashing that. Let's look at the equation on step 6 here. X divided by 60 is equal to x divided by 12 divided by 60, which goes to roughly 5.45 minutes. So that is correct. And what it's saying is that it takes an extra 5.45 minutes roughly for the minute hand to catch up to the hour hand, because the hour hand's made some progress while the minute hand made the full rotation. In a 12-hour period, this will happen 11 times. That is correct. Oh, so it did everything correctly except for step 10. It's considering the 12 o'clock position twice. So that's why it gets to 24. So you can imagine the clock starts at midnight, it goes all the way through and then gets back to that initial 12 o'clock state. You shouldn't actually be counting that again. You should multiply the entire value of 11 by 2 to get 22. You shouldn't count the state again and then multiply the whole thing by 2. So I'll give Claude a half point for this because it was correct all the way up until the end. So with that, ChatGPT is in the lead, 1 versus half versus half. So let's move on to the second puzzle and see if some of these other AIs can catch up to ChatGPT. Alright, so let's see if ChatGPT can maintain its lead with this second question. The question reads, in the fictional country Rhodonia, 24% of the women are married to men, and 16% of the men are married to women. There are a total of 100 million inhabitants of Rhodonia. Assuming each married person is married to exactly one other person, how many men live in Rhodonia? Let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Okay, so it's taking a mathematical approach, and this time it's going through the steps first, instead of just spitting out the answer. Okay, so right off the bat, the answer is correct. It is 60 million, so ChatGPT gets at least half a point for this. Let's scroll up and see if its explanation makes sense. Okay, so it's making variables w and m, defining the proportions that are married, 0.24w, 0.16m. Then it's setting them to be equal to each other, isolating one of the terms, then adding them together. So this is basically the exact same approach I took myself in the video. So with that, ChatGPT gets a full point. Next, let's move on to Gemini. Alright, so on Gemini, let's submit the question and see how it does. Okay, so it's also taking the same approach of stating the steps it takes to solve first and then giving the solution, which is also a reversal of its initial strategy. Okay, so right off the bat, we told it there's 100 million inhabitants. It told us there's 150 million men. So right off the bat, that's a blatantly incorrect answer. Let's at least look at the logic and see if there's anything to salvage from that. No, it's misinterpreting the question. It's saying 24% of the population are women married to men, not that 24% of the population of women are married to men. So right there's a fundamental misunderstanding. So in this case, Gemini surprisingly gets 0 points. So Claude almost got the full point on the last question. So let's see if it can redeem itself here to get the full point this time. Like before, it's starting with the explanation before it goes to the solution. I can see the solution here is correct, 60 million. So let's see if it makes a logical approach to solving the problem. I do like the way Claude lists out the facts first before jumping into calculations. That is a very good way for an AI or a person to solve a problem. It looks like it's taking a very similar approach to ChatGPT by making variables and then proportions to those variables like 0.24y, 0.16x, and then it isolates variables, multiplies it into the total population, and gets the answer. So Claude gets the full point here, making it a close trail behind ChatGPT, leaving Gemini in the dust at the moment. But let's see if Gemini can redeem itself in the final question. So here we are with the third and final question. This question is a little bit more conceptually challenging than the first two. The first two were more firmly rooted in mathematics, whereas this one requires a little bit more conceptual thinking outside of the box in order to solve. So let's see if that changes the game for ChatGPT. Alright, so it's also starting with the explanation now. So let's look at the conclusion. The statement creates a paradox if the person is a truth teller, but no paradox arises if the person is a liar. Therefore, the person must be a liar. So that answer is correct. Let's check the explanation to make sure that it makes total sense. So if the person is telling the truth, they must have said the exact sentence yesterday and are repeating it today. If the person is lying, it means they did not say this sentence yesterday, which contradicts the claim. So analyzing the second part, I'm one of the honest people on the island. That part's self-explanatory. If they are, then they are. If they're not, then they're not. Combining the analysis, the truth teller scenario, that's where the crux of the problem lies. If the person is honest, they must have also said the exact sentence yesterday. But that creates a paradox because if it had indeed said the sentence yesterday, then the claim, I said this exact sentence yesterday, would have to be true again. However, that would require the same situation occurred yesterday, leading to an infinite regress. So that is correct. That is the heart of the problem there. So with that, ChatGPT gets a full point. Alright, now it's Gemini's turn. Let's see how well it does. So they're saying yes. Let's see if the explanation makes sense. The truth teller would not say the same sentence on consecutive days if it contained information about the day they said it. They would update their statement to reflect the current day. The statement is self-contradictory. The person claims to be honest, but the statement itself is inherently dishonest. They can have said the exact same sentence the day before. So they're correct in that the person is a liar, but the explanation doesn't quite prove it. I think they missed the mark on this explanation here, so I'm going to give Gemini only half a point for that one. Last but not least, Claude is up to bat. Okay, being consistent with its past performance, it goes through the explanation first. They get the correct answer. The person is a liar. They're claiming the statement is self-contradictory and cannot be true. So let's see if the explanation they give is the correct one. Yes, so they're claiming it would be impossible to say it for a first time. Basically, they're saying that person would have to have a first day on the island, and at that point they would be lying, making everything else a lie. So they had a slightly different concept there, the concept that the person themselves would have the first day on the island, not directly that the statement would have had to have been said on a first day. But it comes to the same thing, so Claude gets the full point on that one. So ChatGPT came out on top with a perfect score of 3 points, followed closely behind by Claude, which had 2.5 points, leaving Gemini in the dust with only 1 point. So for Claude, it would have gotten a perfect score if it hadn't made that small little, what I'll consider a technical error regarding the clock position, the hands on the clock that is, right? If it hadn't considered the 12 o'clock position twice, it wouldn't have made that mistake. Gemini, on the other hand, had more conceptual issues, such as when it claimed that a population of 100 million people had 150 million men. So I think it was the concepts that tripped up Gemini on all of the problems. I will say it's amazing how far artificial intelligence has come, but it definitely has a lot more progress to make before it can really contend with human intelligence, the ability to break down concepts and solve these kinds of problems. Except for ChatGPT, maybe, because they got a perfect score, who knows. So if you like this video, if you like AI content logic puzzles, please do subscribe, as I plan on making plenty more videos like this. I'm curious to see how ChatGPT in particular handles some of the more difficult logic puzzles I want to throw at it. So I hope you enjoyed, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.